What's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome to VHB Engines. So far this morning, it's all been like product stuff and all that good shit. So let's get back to some good old fashioned, just informative, or not even really informative, I guess, just discussion. This is discussion, theory in motion type deal. This is something that's been on my mind like for the past month or so. I'm wanting to talk about. So I did talk about the 10th Gen SI and the FK8 Type R and all that stuff like it towards the last quarter of last year, and there's some updates to that. One of them I got to credit to Mario. With there's strides being taken in the Type R community, right? And I will get to that, but that deserves its own separate topic. But for now, I wanted to reevaluate the whole SI versus FK8 Type R. Why? Because I was, like I've said for a while, thinking about getting a new car for myself this year. Of course, my wife went from making this kind of money to that kind of money to this kind of money, going back up to this kind of money. So now we're waiting for our finances to balance out once we're in the new house. We still haven't paid our first month of rent yet after moving in. We've this first last deposit type deal. So I want to pay rent, pay our bills, look where our money's at for the month, and then evaluate from there whether I'm going to get a new car or not. I very much would like to get a new car. I do not want to drive around in my bucket anymore. The buckets need to go under construction. I can't put the buckets under construction without having another car. These are the problems I'm dealing with. So right now, I guess here's the soft plan. I'm in the market for another shell. I'm looking for an EGDC. I get the shell. I put my K-mounts in it. I have a swap that I can put in it right away. That's it. That's as far as I'm going. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have zero plans to complete this car. This is what I plan on doing. My high compression A3 with a 5-speed trans, put it into a shell, slap a $2,000 price tag on it, K-swap ready shell. I saw a fucking Del Sol sell for $2,000 a couple months ago immediately with just a base unmodified K20A3 in it. People love the idea of K-ready shells. People love the ideas of K-swap cars, right? They just don't love the idea of putting it in there because, and I have to beat everybody over the head to tell you, it's not that expensive, right? I'm still trying to convince people that. So, this is like a sneaky plan of mine to flip shells. Like right now, I have just plan on buying the K-mounts, buying a shell, put the K-mounts in a shell, K-ready shell. There you go. And sell it for three times the money I paid for it. So if I can get to the point where I'm selling shells that are K-ready for $1,000, win. Especially if I'm getting the shell for like $200. So anyway, the whole thing is, if my plan goes the way I want it to go, I buy a shell, put the K-swap in there. I can make content for YouTube, show you guys, and then I can make the $2,000. Then that $2,000, I'll take to CarMax and I'll buy a Civic Si. That's the plan. That's what I want to do. Now, could I go right now and get one? Yeah, I could. But again, I want to see my monthly expenses to see if I can afford stacking on a car payment, a new car payment and insurance on top of what I'm already living with right now. So that's my biggest concern. Not getting the car, it's maintaining the car. I don't want to bury myself in bills, especially when I'm living okay right now. I'm living pretty comfortably, and I'd like to maintain comfort. So, here's my things, Mike. Getting a what's my range? Like between $20,000 and $33,000. Let's just say 33. I like 33. So $20,000 to $33,000. That's actually a pretty good range and a pretty broad range. And also because of the fact that I'm not looking necessarily at something 0 miles. I'm just looking for something like 10,000 miles or around that mark, right? I think we bought the CHR last year with like 18,000 miles, and we're at like 34,000 miles now, and we have taken plenty of road trips. So if I can get something in the 10,000 to 15,000 mile range, that'd be great. If I can get a brand new 0 mile Civic Si, that would also be great. I would plan on maybe going and picking one up in another month or two when we're further into the year, so that way I can get some dealer markdowns, right? So then I'm evaluating my cars. The cars I was looking at was the the SI, a used Type R, or a used Mustang GT. Yeah, those are the three cars that were like my front runners, right? So I'm like, now I gotta weigh in pros and cons. Okay, what's the cons of the Mustang? Gas mileage, two doors. All right, so, but the car that I buy will mainly be to go back and forth to work, to be 100% honest. The way my wife's schedule now works, I can have her car to take the kids to work and to school in the morning. So that's not really a big deal. There's only 2 days out of the week that I need, that I have to take my personal car to get the kids and or drop them off, so, and that's not that really big of an inconvenience. And at the end of the day, having a car like the Mustang GT would be fun enough where I don't give a fuck if I gotta pop the back seat for my daughter to get out. So the car comes fast off rip, sounds great. I really like the body style. It was a little bit on the plain side on the interior for me, but overall, I like the car. Now, its immediate competition would be at the same price, a used Type R. Right, I can get a used GT and a used Type R right around the same price, 33 grand. So, cons of the Type R, it loses to the GT. So, I'm like, fuck, man. The Type R is, the fact that we have this great car back in in the States or whatever is not as fast as its price tag would imply. So that really that blows for me. So price to power ratio isn't the best, but it's a Type R. So the pros would be like, it's a Type R, and that's great to be able to have a Type R, like a legit new Type R that I could drive around. And same thing when I upgraded to the iPhone 11. Like, it's the first time ever having anything that matters currently, right? So that would be cool. The cool factor of having the Type R. All right, another pro would be it's 4 doors, right? So, and another pro would be gas mileage. But at the end of the day, power to price tag ratio, man, makes a huge difference to me. So buying a car for $33,000 that loses to a car for $33,000, like, man, it fucking sucks. I know it has more pros overall than the GT, but that holds me back. So then the other thing to figure in and factor is the SI, right? Pros, price tag, 23 grand, right? Fucking gas mileage and 4 doors, right? So a $10,000 deduction, $10,000 drop from the other 2 cars I'm considering, and it's a pretty good incentive. But then what's the problem with the Type R, with the SI? The SI doesn't really make too much power off its base form, right? You can only go so high with that L15B before you have a problem, and it's not very high. It's not very high at all before those things shatter. So now, if you're yelling and screaming at your phone already because we're 7 minutes in and you're like, oh my God, the Type R, just a little bit of modifications will eat that GT alive. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not necessarily looking at modifying, this car. This car is not something I want to invest in. Now, now you're going to think, oh, Chris, you're about to be hypocritical because I'm about to say what I'm saying is because this video is SI versus Type R. You'll see why now, right? So what do we know about Type Rs, right? Everything for the Type R is rare because it's only one car. It's one chassis, right? So how many K20Cs do you see running around out there? Not many. They're expensive, right? So what's the benefit of the SI? Just like the K24A that came in many, many cars, the L15B that's in the SI comes in many, many cars. It comes in CRVs and Accords, I think. Maybe Accords. I'm not 100% sure. I might be lying about that. But it comes in the CRV for sure. It comes in another chassis. And it comes in chassis that you can go to the junkyard and get that engine. So the L15B, I can make a phone call to my guy at the junkyard and say, I need this engine. And he can pull it for me and I can have it. And I don't think it would be very much money either. I'm pretty sure less than $1,000. I would even be willing to bet that I could say I can get that engine for $500 or less. So, K20C replacement, or the SI. Now, the reason why I'm saying, why I don't want to modify or whatever, because normally you can get away with just doing bolt-ons and tune, right? And it's not that big an investment. But when the bolt-ons and tune aspect has such a low power threshold before engines start to break, it starts looking like a good idea to have another engine on the side that you can just build, right? And my swap speeds are slow. I tend to take a long time for project cars, right? So I can't afford to take the engine out that I have in the car that I need as a daily driver and to take the time to build it and put it back in. I have to do something on the side, and when the time comes to swap it, just change it out. and this is just spitballing too, because I'm thinking that if whatever of these three cars I decide to buy, it would be like, I don't plan on getting rid of it. Like, unless something happens where it just turns into a fucking lemon, I would want to keep the car. And especially if it's a Honda, even if I did have problems with it, I'd still want to keep it. And I think I really have fallen in love with the 10th gen chassis for the Civic, man. I don't like the hatchback. The hatchback looks pretty fucking gay to me. It looks more like a station wagon. I don't like station wagons. So I like the sedan. It kind of reminds me of like I know this is probably some of you guys are gonna think I'm fucking crazy. It doesn't look anything like it, but the body lines for the SI, looking at it from the side view, it reminds me a lot of the Panamera. So I like it, man. I saw another SI last night in the parking lot. As long as it doesn't have that tall wing, which I really don't like, it had the low profile wing. I fucking love it. I would love to have a championship white Civic Si. That'd be something I'd like to have, right? Now, my wife kind of boosted my head up to get a Type R, but again, looking at the two, I can still see me getting a Type R. Like, if my expenses all settle out in the next month or so, and I see that I have, X amount of money that are left over, comfortably cushioned up, then I could maybe talk myself into doing it. I need another month or two to go by for me to get rid of my storage spot, my little shop space to have, to really see how my money's going to be. Once that it gets to where that levels out and I know what my income is looking like, then I could see what's up. But I am strongly leaning towards an SI, just because, like I said, finding another K20C to build versus an L15B would be, it's just night and day difference in cost and availability. So if you're thinking about one of these two cars, I mean, like if you're like me, like I was saying in the beginning, getting a car that you don't plan on modifying, then the Type R for sure, I guess it delivers more power. And if you do decide to go a bolt-on route, then then I guess you're definitely gonna make more power than the Civic Si will. So that's great. And then talking to Mario, who owns a Type R, and what he's done to upgrade, he said the Type R out of the box is already competitive with the muscle cars that I'm talking about. Right, so it's competitive with it. It's not like a terrible loss or whatnot, but once you start modifying, it doesn't take much to be neck and neck and or beating these guys. So there's that. But I still think that the SI would be the one I'd fall back on, just because of the fact that if you're talking about rebuilding the engine, it's a lot more cost effective to do that with the L15B than it is the K20C. So yeah, that's just some things to consider. Again, if you're looking at buying an SI or Type R, the Type R is I got something fucking with me. Jesus Christ. The Type R is in an iconic fucking chassis. I hope that with the successful sales of the Type R now that we have in the United States, that we're going to continue to get them. I would believe we are. I would say that Honda's doing well in the Type R sales because I see them all over the place now. It went from like, oh my God, it's Type R to, yeah, it's Type R. So they're pretty plentiful, and I think we're going to keep getting them. So I guess as far as me and owning a Type R, I just have to see how the generations progress and see how the body style looks. I'm not saying the Type R is necessarily ugly, because the overall aesthetics to that hatchback version of the Civic isn't so bad as just a straight plain old hatchback. I really don't like that car, but I really do love the Civic sedan. Like, it's great. I fucking love it. It's night and day better than the 9th gen. I haven't enjoyed a car like this. I haven't enjoyed the body lines on a Civic like this since the 9th gen. And I know it doesn't seem like that far back, but that's quite a ways. It's quite a ways back that car came out. So yeah, and as a matter of fact, giving the years that we have on the Civic, like the generations in between, I'm actually kind of surprised that we haven't got an announcement for a new one yet. I think that the Honda, they're still developing the next generation version of Type R, and they're just milking what we have now with the current Type Rs. So I guess the sales are doing very well. And I think once we start hearing whispers of the new Type R, that's when we can know that the new generation of Civic is coming. And I would like to have something that's modern. I would like to be able to own a Civic that's current. And I think that the chassis, the body style for this generation is fantastic, and I would love to own one. And I don't want to have to wait another 10, 15 years to be able to feel like I can afford one. So yeah, if everything goes well this year and my shit goes according to plan, then you could potentially see me rolling around an SI in the later half of the year. All right, guys. That's just some shit to think about, and thanks for watching. All my social media links are in the description below. If you join up for Patreon, you get a 10% fucking discount for parts and labor for me. So there's a little bit of incentive. Thanks guys again for watching, and peace.